In a dramatic turn in the Middle East, a multi-nation mediated agreement has led to the release of the final Israeli hostages held in Gaza and a tentative ceasefire. The atmosphere has shifted from despair to hope, though the deepest wounds remain open. He returned home under a blaze of spotlight and ceremony. President Trump landed in the US, marking the conclusion of a diplomatic journey that included his personal involvement in what supporters now call a signature foreign policy triumph. On the ground in Israel, families waited for over 2 years for this moment. At reunions across the country, in Tel Aviv, at military bases, and in quiet homes, the scenes were raw, vivid, and heartbreaking. Screams echoed, tears flowed, embraces stretched, fell, and remade the space between absence and presence. All 20 hostages released from Hamas captivity, we are getting our first look at their emotional return with family members that waited 2 years for them to come home. The jubilation, however, came layered with grief. Among the hostages believed to have died, only 4 coffins have been handed over so far, a shortfall that rips open the question of where the others lie and whether the remains can ever be recovered. Only 4 of 28 deceased hostages have been handed over, which violates the term of the peace agreement. In Israel, critics and officials alike pointed to that shortfall as a breach of the deal's spirit and perhaps its letter. This moment did not emerge by accident. It followed a summit held in Egypt, where Trump and leaders of regional states signed a new Gaza ceasefire accord. That, in turn, was part of the broader 20-point peace plan that included hostages for prisoners swaps, a halt to hostilities, and a commitment to reconstruction. 20 hostages freed from Hamas captivity. Negotiators are working on phase 2 of the agreement. President Trump told me he is confident it will work out fine. But confidence and reality often diverge. Key clauses remain unresolved. Will Hamas disarm? Who will govern Gaza? How will Israel's security needs and humanitarian demands in Gaza be balanced? During one exchange, a reporter asked, Hamas said they are not willing to disarm. What leverage do you have over Hamas at this point? Trump answered with measured resolve, a lot of leverage over them. Countries that had backed them in the past will no longer. They agreed to this. They would be going against the terms of the agreement. He added, you may have to be strong or maybe not. Those words reflected the delicate tightrope of diplomacy. Use too little pressure and the agreement crumbles. Use too much and war reignites.
As the deal unfolded, regional mediators, including Qatar and Egypt, pledged to monitor compliance. Intelligence teams would traverse Gaza to find missing remains. Israel, for its part, held its ground. No further normalization or movement would proceed until all remaining 24 hostages are accounted for. 4 were released yesterday. Part of the agreement, there is international coalition to try to build together intelligence information, and then possibly even send teams into Gaza to look for where the bodies are located. Even as families rejoiced over living returns, the vacant space left by missing remains weighed heavily. Officials admitted that some bodies may never be found, lost in the rubble of bombing or destroyed beyond recognition. One analyst warned, the post-war terrain may prove too chaotic to fully reconstruct. In some cases, remains may have been burned or otherwise impossible to recover. The Red Cross described repatriation as a massive challenge given the scale of destruction. Grieving families made clear, closure is not a luxury, it is a demand. Without remains, there can be no proper burial, no mourning in their traditions, no end to the waiting. One of the families that spoke publicly belongs to the late Irani Cooper, one of the hostages believed to have died in captivity. His son, Rodham Cooper, addressed the press with both hope and frustration. He described the day as one of great anticipation, having traveled to the base where hostages emerge. He recalled thousands gathering since morning, waiting for signs, for clues, and for their loved ones. When only 4 deceased hostages were returned, the news struck him as a shock. 20 plus 4 is 24. Clear Hamas chose that number probably not by mistake, and Hamas is playing games. U.S. is committed and Hamas is not negotiating in good faith. That is very clear. Now, next few days, crucial to send clear message to Hamas not going to be tolerated. He pressed that Israel's forward motion, peace, normalization, reconstruction would not begin until the remaining 24 hostages are brought home. His mother, who had survived a previous hostage event, was said to be fragile, both physically and emotionally. He noted, "She lost her husband of 60 years, symptoms of Holocaust survivor. She does not want to talk about it anymore." And of his father, "Getting back my father could do and owe her some closure." Yet he acknowledged it can never be full closure. Even as the hostage phases conclude, the larger war is not so easily declared over. The agreement outlines a new phase, reconstruction and governance. Already, displaced Palestinians are returning to the north of Gaza. Humanitarian aid is slated to flow in. Some Israeli forces are pulling back, but the security, administrative, and political infrastructure needed to make peace durable remains fragile. Trump, addressing the Knesset in Jerusalem, called this a historic dawn and declared the war over by military means. He urged regional cooperation and normalization. Still, he avoided committing to a formal two-state solution, saying simply, "We'll have to see." Critics say the agreement's ambiguity may be its Achilles heel. If key clauses fail, especially on disarmament or governance, the entire deal could unravel. Many interpret the deal not just as a reconciliation of hostages and prisoners, but as a turning point in U.S. engagement in the region. Trump, once a polarizing figure in Middle East diplomacy, now positions himself as broker and kingmaker. He and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spearheaded a summit in Sharm el-Sheikh that included regional heavyweights. Together, they pushed forward not just a ceasefire, but a diplomatic framework for Gaza's future. But this moment also opens many fault lines. If normalization is to follow, Israel may press for further concessions. Palestinians may demand firmer sovereignty. Hamas, forced to accept terms it once denied, now must navigate its survival as an armed group with decreasing leverage. Experts caution the agreement may be a fragile truce rather than lasting peace. Trump has claimed this is his 8th war ended, but analysts note many of those prior wars were ceasefires or limited conflicts. Still, few deny its gravity. The emotional weight of 2 years of captivity, loss, and waiting finally intersected with diplomacy. As Phase 2 unfolds, several critical tasks lie ahead. Recovering the remains of the deceased hostages remains a moral and logistical challenge. More coffins may be returned, but many may never be found. Ensuring compliance by Hamas is crucial. Disarming armed factions, linking them to governance, or otherwise integrating into a civilian structure raises enormous tensions. Rebuilding Gaza's infrastructure, with electricity, water, sanitation, and governance, requires funding, security, and trust. Normalizing ties with Israel by other Arab states will test whether the peace deal is seen as a durable template or a brittle interlude. Addressing security concerns, whether cross-border attacks or militant resurgence may destabilize the fragile peace. Israel is unlikely to proceed into normalization or further concessions until it is certain all 24 hostages missing or declared dead are accounted for. Negotiators must balance that imperative with the urgency of rebuilding a shattered region. At the heart of this moment is human loss. 20 lives returned, 20 or more still missing or gone without trace. Families broken, homes destroyed, thirst for justice unquenched. Yet in Tel Aviv, in the streets, in the reunion squares, there were scenes of joy, in hugs, in tears, in the presence of those once absent. The celebration was real, though ambivalent. The agreement struck is as much symbolic as it is practical. It signals the possibility of a new order, but words on paper will not heal bones nor rebuild lives. The test ahead lies in turning ceasefire into peace, compassion into policy, and promise into reality. As one mediator put it, the war may have paused, but the battle for peace is only beginning.